Hi, welcome to our presentation on the FAFSA preview. My name is Bobby Smith. I'm the Director of Financial Aid at Western Illinois University, and we will be reviewing the overview of the FAFSA. So just general information about what it is, how to file, what comes after you file. So we're going to go through this, and then if there are questions at the end, we would be happy to take those at the end. So first and foremost, what is FAFSA? So FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So you'll hear us say FAFSA a lot, but it is the Free Application for Student Aid. You can fill out the FAFSA beginning October 1 for the upcoming academic year you plan to enroll. So for example, if you are planning to enroll for the 2021-22 school year, the FAFSA opened October 1 of 2020. It will stay open for the 2021-22 school year through June 30th of 2022. So it's open for almost a whole year and a half. And then the FAFSA for the 2022-23 school year will open on October 1st of 2021. So the FAFSA has to be filled out every year. You can fill that out in a number of ways, and we're going to go through that. When you fill out your FAFSA, you're always going to use 2-year prior tax information or income information. So again, for the 2021-22 school year, you are using your 2019 taxes. For the 2020-21 school year, you would have used your 2018, and then it just keeps going from there. So you want to always make sure that you have that information on hand when you sit down to file your FAFSA. WIU has a priority filing date of January 1st. That really is more in relation to the Illinois MAP grant, because the Illinois MAP grant is limited funding and it is subject to state appropriation. If they run out of money and you are eligible for the MAP grant, but you don't file your FAFSA before they run out of funds, you miss out on those funds. So we try to encourage people to file as early as possible, beginning October 1st, but at a minimum, try to file by January 1st, because traditionally that's when the state has ran out of funds. Okay, so there are different types of financial aid. So when you fill out the FAFSA, you are applying for federal work study, federal direct loans, both subsidized and unsubsidized. You're applying for scholarships, which you don't necessarily apply for the scholarships through the FAFSA, but a lot of organizations use the FAFSA information to determine eligibility for scholarships. You're also applying for grants, which specifically would be the federal Pell Grant, as well as the federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, and also the state of Illinois MAP grant. So if you're a state of Illinois resident, you only have to fill out the FAFSA to determine eligibility for the state grant. If you're an Iowa resident, there is a separate application for state aid that you would need to fill out in addition to the FAFSA. So just keep that in mind. There are multiple ways to fill out the FAFSA. So one of those ways is online at studentaid.gov/FAFSA. You can also apply through the mobile app, which is My FAFSA. You can file a paper form. So it's a PDF that you would fill out and you would send in to the Department of Education. You can download a PDF of the FAFSA by following the website listed on the screen. You can also call and you can basically tell someone, a representative from the Department of Education, your information over the phone, and they will enter that information into your FAFSA. That is obviously not a very preferred method of use or common method of use, but it is available if you have no technology or do not have access to download the PDF and fill out that paper application. The most common use is the online application, but becoming more common is the app that you can use on a mobile device. So when you apply online, you go to studentaid.gov. You select Start Here. If you are a new FAFSA filer, if you are a returning FAFSA filer, you would log in using your FSA ID and password. So once you select either of those options, you're going to be asked to log in. So if you haven't created an FSA ID in the past, you would want to create one now. So you, the student, need an FSA ID, and also your parent, if you're a dependent student, needs an FSA ID. You cannot share those. So the student needs one, the parent needs one. You can't share that because they are your electronic signature. So when your parent is asked to sign your FAFSA, they can't use the same FSA ID that you're using because you've already used that as your electronic signature. So when you log into the FAFSA, this is the student's information. So the student is the filer. So this is the student's application for financial aid. So you, the student, would log in. You would create your FSA ID and password, and you would go to the next section. So your FSA ID is an email or a username, and then your password is a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols that you would remember for years to come. Once you complete that FSA ID, it's important to remember that that FSA ID is going to be used for multiple years for multiple reasons. So that FSA ID is going to be used through the FAFSA process, but it's also going to be used to accept any federal direct loans. And it's also going to be used to sign your master promissory note, apply for repayment options, complete loan counseling. And then if you ever apply for loan forgiveness through one of the loan forgiveness programs, you would also use your FSA ID for that as well. So when you create that FSA ID, you want to make sure that you're going to have access to that email that you use long-term. You're going to remember your username. You're going to remember your password. Now, if you forget your password, you can reset that, but you can't reset your username. So if you are using a high school email, so let's say you're a high school student and you were assigned an email address for your high school, and you will not have access to that after you graduate, you don't want to use that because you won't have access to that. So you can't then reset your password by sending a reminder or a link to reset your password to that email address, because you will no longer be able to access that email. So make sure that you are using an email that you can have access to long-term and that you can get into long-term. Okay, in order to set up your FSA ID and password, you would need your social security number, an email address, or a mobile phone number in order to reset that if that was something that you needed to do. Again, only one person can have access to an FSA ID. So your parent needs one, you need one. Those cannot be the same email addresses, nor can they be the same FSA ID. When you're on the My Student Aid mobile app, this is just a depiction of what that looks like. Basically the same setup. Start here to complete your FAFSA. It will then ask you to represent who you are, so it can make sure that you go down that correct path. So if you select I am the student, it will ask you to log in or create an FSA ID. The save key is basically just a way to save where you are in the event something stops you. So let's say there's a power outage and your computer shuts down. If you save the application using that save key, you can come back at a later date and you can start over where you left off. Whereas if you don't have that save key, you have to start over at the beginning. So it's just kind of almost like a save key. It allows you to save so that you can come back to where you left off. So once you get logged in, the My Student Aid mobile app breaks down the FAFSA just like it does on the web-based version. It gives you each section. So you have the student section, you have the school selection section, the dependency status section, parent information, etc. And it just walks you through that process in that mobile version. It always tells you at the top that you're logged in as the student. So anytime you see a question about your household, you got to make sure that that's you, the student's household, not your parent's household. So you just want to be reflective of that based on your login. In order to transfer your tax information electronically, you can use a tool called the IRS Data Retrieval tool. So this allows you to go out to the IRS's website, transfer the data back to your FAFSA, and that way you have accuracy in that data. You can data entry it from your tax returns, but you can also transfer it electronically using this data retrieval tool. This is a benefit if you are selected for a process called verification. If you have transferred your tax information electronically from the IRS to the FAFSA and you are selected for a process called verification, you do not have to provide verification of your tax information to the school because you've already done that electronically through the IRS data retrieval tool. So this is something we encourage you to do. It is the easiest and fastest way to get your tax information verified. You will be asked some information to leave the FAFSA's website and go to the IRS's website in order to make sure that you are who you say you are, but then it will transfer that data back and populate those questions on the FAFSA related to those tax data questions. When you sit down to fill out the FAFSA, you would need some documentation. So for the student, you would need your dependent and or parent / guardian's information. So who is your parent? Who is the person who is providing more than 50% of your support? And whose information are you going to be providing on the FAFSA? So you would need their information, their name, their birth date, their social security number. If you will be providing their information, you will need their tax or income information. So you will need their tax returns, W-2s, social security number. You will need to know whether or not they are a dislocated worker. You will need to know whether or not they qualify for any federal means tested benefits such as SNAP, TANF, free or reduced lunches, some employment security benefits such as WIA or Workforce Investment Authority, any assets they may hold, which is not their primary residence, but if they have assets like retirement accounts or cash savings checking or rental properties or vacation homes or any other untaxed income. So income that is sitting in maybe a Roth IRA or a retirement account that they are not paying taxes on currently because they don't pay them until they draw those funds out. You need to report that yearly amount they put into that account on your FAFSA, but you don't put in the gross amount or the full amount of that account. So just keep those things in mind. In order to be considered independent, you have to be able to answer one of the dependency questions on the FAFSA, yes. And those dependency questions are if you are 24 or older, and you have to be 24 as of December 31st of the award year. So if you're filling out the 21-22 FAFSA and you will be 24 on January 1st, you will not be eligible to be independent until the 22-23 school year or the 23-24 FAFSA. If you will be 24 on December 31st and you're filling out the 21-22 FAFSA, you would be independent. So you would qualify to be independent for 21-22 because you would be 24 before the end of the award year or the calendar year for the year in which you're applying for financial aid. Another dependency is if you are married. If you are married, you would be independent. You would provide your spouse's information as opposed to your parents'. If you have dependents that you provide more than 50% of their support, you are independent. If you are a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces, you are considered independent. If you are a ward of the state, meaning you were in foster care or you are an orphan, you are considered independent. If you're an emancipated minor and you went through a court system to emancipate yourself from your parents, you would be considered independent. And if you are homeless or at risk of being homeless, you can be considered independent. All of the information below the age would be required to be verified your first year you're enrolled at WIU. So if you claim to be a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces and we don't verify that with the Department of Defense, then we would ask you to verify that by providing documentation. If you claim to be an emancipated minor, there should be court documentation that you would provide to us that would verify that you are an emancipated minor and you are independent for financial aid purposes. If you are unable to answer yes to any of these questions, you are dependent and you have to provide your parents' information. If you have a special circumstance that prevents you from providing your parents' information, such as abuse, neglect, incarceration, military service, mental health, then you can contact our office and we will walk you through a process called a dependency override, in which you will document that you should be independent based on a extenuating circumstance or a special circumstance. Okay. So again, if you answer yes to any of the dependency questions, your first year at Western, you will be asked to verify that. So some tips and tricks when you're filling out the FAFSA. If you are not using the data retrieval tool, make sure that you are entering the amounts from the tax returns accurately. or you can estimate them and then go back and make a correction when you have your tax information in front of you. But we really prefer you not to do that anymore, because since we're using prior year tax information, so 2-year-old tax information, there's really no reason to estimate. If you don't have your tax information and you are not able to use the data retrieval tool, we would encourage you just to save the FAFSA, get your tax information, and then finish that FAFSA at a later date. Because if you estimate and you forget to go back and change it, that's going to get you selected for what's called verification, which is going to create more processing on the back end. We would just rather you wait and submit it as accurately as possible on, in the first pass. Check your social security number, alien registration number. If your parents do not have a social security number, you can use 000000000. So if you as the student have to be a US citizen or an eligible non-citizen to apply for financial aid, but if your parents are undocumented or not US citizens, you can use in their place 0000000 for their social security number and still complete and fill out the FAFSA. So just the student has to be a US or eligible non-citizen. The parent or the guardian of the student does not. Don't forget to account for all household members, including yourself. So a lot of the times we get people that they put down who's in their household, and lo and behold, they forgot their brother, or they forgot their sister, or they forgot, oh, grandma lives with us now. So make sure that when you're indicating the number of people in your household, you're including everyone that your parents, or if in the case that you're an independent student, everyone that your parent or you provide more than 50% of the support for. So if your parents have an older child that's living with them, so say that child is 27 living at home, if they are providing support for that person in the form of housing, food, clothing, laundry, basic necessities, they're providing support for that person even if they have a job and are essentially contributing to the household. It would be hard for them to contribute more than 50% unless your parents are charging them rent. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you're aware of who's in the household, and make sure you know who to count, because once you submit the FAFSA, you can't change household information unless it was an error at the time that you filed the FAFSA, and we would need to prove that in order for us to make that correction. Make sure you list both parents if you're living with both parents. So, sometimes your parents are married and you forget to include them in your household. So just make sure that if you list both biological parents, if your parents are married, your biological parents are married, you include both of those in your household total. Now, if your biological parents are divorced, you have to pick which parent provides more than 50% of your support. So if you have one parent that you live with and the other parent that you stay with sometimes, it's the parent that you live with that you would be providing their information. If that parent is remarried, then now you have to provide not only that biological parent's information, but that step parent who's married to your biological parent. So even though the step parent may not financially have any obligation to you, that step parent contributes to the household and you are a member of that household. So that person has to be included on your FAFSA. If you have biological parents who are divorced, you live with one parent, but the other parent pays child support, and you can document that that child support provides more than 50% of your support, the student, you could use that other parent's information on the FAFSA, but you would have to document that in the form of support. So just keep that in mind. There is a tool on the FAFSA website that allows you to identify who is your parent and who should be provided, whose information should be provided on the FAFSA. So if you need help with that, there's an infographic that kind of walks you through identifying which parent you should put on the FAFSA. Don't forget to count yourself. So a lot of times, people include brother, sister, mom, dad, but they forget to count themselves. Make sure both you and your parent have an FSA ID. And in order to fill out and complete the FAFSA, males between the age of 18 and 24 have to register for selective service. So selective service is a form of the draft back when the draft was in existence for military service. It's still in existence as of now. So males between the age of 18 and 24 have to register. If you do not register, we would not be able to award or disperse any financial aid to you. So it is a requirement to receive financial aid. You can apply for the FAFSA without it, but you would not be eligible to receive any of those funds. Make sure when you're filling out the FAFSA, you include WIU as a school choice. So our school code is 001780. So make sure that you include us so that we can send you an award offer. At WIU specifically, we only send award offers to admitted students. So in addition to filing your FAFSA, listing WIU as a school choice, make sure you're also applied for admissions and gone through the process of being admitted, because if you are not an admitted student, you will never receive an award offer from us. So just keep that in mind. Timeline for after we receive your FAFSA. So typically the Department of Education processes your FAFSA within 24 to 48 hours. Within 3 to 5 days, they'll send you what is called a student aid report. And that student aid report is simply a summary of what you put on the FAFSA. If you see something that's wrong or incorrect, you can then go in and make a correction to your FAFSA. They then send us your FAFSA to the schools that you listed on your FAFSA. They send that to the school, we process that information, and then we ultimately send you an award offer. At WIU, we send the award offers electronically to our returning and our transfer students using the student portal called STARS. But for new students, we do send a paper award letter to their home address. Some additional information to keep in mind is, the FAFSA, like we talked about, is grants, federal direct loans. Some of the information from the FAFSA is used to apply for scholarships, but at WIU, we have a separate scholarship application for departmental and foundation scholarships. So you'll want to definitely check that out after you file your FAFSA. There are deadlines associated with that. As you can see here, the presidential scholarship for new students is December 1st. The freshman scholarship is due March 1st, and returning and transfer students is due May 1st. So you want to definitely check out any other scholarship opportunities at the school that you plan to attend. Regularly check your WIU email and your STARS account for any updates or for any requests for additional information, and notify our office of any aid that's not listed on your award letter. So if you are going to be receiving a scholarship from a local organization, a school, maybe somebody that is going to help you pay for college, and they're going to be giving that to you in the form of a scholarship, you need to let us know that so we can include that on your award letter. If it's not on your award letter, it won't be factored into your out-of-pocket cost. So as you're making plans to set up payment plans or finish paying off that cost, you won't have that factored into that calculation. Also, you can only receive so much financial aid. It is known as the cost of attendance. So if you receive aid in excess of the cost of attendance, we have to start sending that financial aid back. So it's not like you can keep it. You have to honor that cost of attendance, and we have to send that back. So it's better that we know about it early so we can reduce or cancel loans, so we can make sure that you are aware that you would not be eligible for those funds if they're in excess of the institution's cost of attendance. There is a process called verification, in which we are required to verify the information that is on your FAFSA is true and correct. About 24% of our students are selected for that process. We notify students via their WIU email as well as on STARS, and we ask our students to complete that verification worksheet, send that in to us along with any applicable tax information and income information. There are special circumstances that will allow us to reevaluate your financial aid. So remember, we talked about that your financial aid information on your FAFSA is from 2-year prior income. So if your income or your situation has changed currently from what it was 2 years ago, we can look at your FAFSA and we can reevaluate your eligibility for financial aid based on those change in circumstances. So typically it requires a written explanation and documentation. We will review that request, and then if we need additional information, we will request that from you. So an example is a parent income appeal. Your parent's income from 2 years ago is different than it was now. We can take that into consideration, and we can estimate their current year income and use that in place of 2-year-old income, which may or may not affect their the student's eligibility for financial aid. So there's lots of different reasons for special circumstance appeals. These are just a few of them. Unusual or uncovered medical dental expenses, extraordinary dependent care, divorce, loss of employment. So these are all reasons why you would contact our office, and we would walk you through that process to do a special circumstance appeal. Okay, so that is basically the information about filling out your FAFSA, why you fill out your FAFSA, how you fill out your FAFSA. If you have any questions about any of that information that we covered today, please feel free to contact us. Our contact information is on the screen. We are active on social media at WIU Financial Aid across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also email, call us, or we also are on Facebook Messenger. You can send us a Facebook message. We really want to help you. We're here for you. If you need support, if you need assistance, please reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you. We want you to be successful, and we want to set you on a path to success as you start your college career. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and I thank you for your time.